that was something that really stuck with me early on. I was kind of like always in the like back of the top 7, like fringe of, being like on our state team, like always kind of in this like chasing position. And kind of that theme continued for me through college, was like on the edge of being an alternate for nationals and just being on that cusp enough that I always felt like in this chasing position. And so I think that mindset and that hunger really stuck with me for a long time.
That was Abby Hall today on the Running Effect podcast. I'm your host, Dominic Schlueter. I'm honored and privileged you have decided to click on this episode and spend some time with me this day. I never take it for granted, and I hope that I continue to provide you value through the incredible guests I get to speak to. Abby is one of those people. She recently won Western States, which, as we dive into in this conversation, is kind of the Super Bowl of trail running. I come from a background of, marathons, track and field, cross country. So anytime I get to speak with someone in the trail running world, it's always a treat because I feel like I'm in preschool or kindergarten again, learning all sorts of new stuff. And so this conversation with Abby was no different. Got to understand and learn about the world of trail running and all of the excellent things that she's pursuing in the sport, and a lot of her background and mindsets that have made her successful, that I'm confident you guys will be able to take away and implement into your own running and life, and hopefully make you better as a result. If you do enjoy this one, give us a 5-star review. It takes next to no time to do. Hit the follow button so you don't miss more conversations like this in the future. And specifically share the podcast or this episode or your favorite episode with a friend, as that is the easiest way in which we can grow this thing. I'd be forever indebted to you if you did that. Without further ado, enjoy this conversation with the one and only Abby Hall. Ladies and gentlemen, across from me is a woman who runs faster than I ever will, runs farther than I ever will, and has done some remarkable stuff over the past year. So I've wanted to get her on the podcast. Abby Hall, welcome to the Running Effect. How are you doing?
Thanks so much, Dominic. I'm doing well. I'm happy to be joining you today.
I vaguely follow the sport of trail running, so I have some understanding of it. But so when I hear Western States, I know what Western States is, but I have about as like intro of an understanding to the sport of trail running as possible. So I always love my conversations with people in this space, in this sport. And I think something unique about running is it's like one foot in front of the other, but there's so many different disciplines you can focus on. And it's crazy that like 100-meter sprint that takes 9 seconds and 250 miles are considered the same sport. So it's fun to hone in and out at times through these conversations. And I'm excited to dive into trail running today. But starting with like Western States, for someone listening who's like, I don't know what that means. So when I hear that she won it, I don't know if that's impressive or not. How would you describe Western States to people out there?
Great question. Western States is one of the oldest races in the U.S. It's a very old ultra marathon. It's a 100-mile race that starts in Olympic Valley on the Lake Tahoe side of the Sierra Mountains in California, and finishes in Auburn, California, and crosses through high country and all kinds of really hot canyons and crossing the river. And it's just like this very unique slice of California terrain that has become a real meeting grounds for some of the most competitive names in the sport of trail and ultra running to really cut their teeth and throw down on fast runnable terrain. I first heard of the race when I was getting into the sport, like in 2016. And you kind of quickly start to hear a lot of the lore about this race. And it's a really unique one because there's tons of people that want to do it every year, but there's a lottery because there's only so many people that can go on this very special area. They limit it to, I believe, about 350 entrants or something like that. But the lottery is highly competitive. The other form of entry is through these golden ticket races, which become a really exciting portal to the race through other competitive 100K events across a calendar year. So we try to get the most competitive field there possible through a number of these entry points, as well as like returning top 10 and everything each year.
Something I'm fascinated to hear your opinion on is like, why is this one small, not small anymore, but small on a, macro level race become the Super Bowl of trail running, where it's like, even me, I'm not a necessarily like massive trail running fan, I tune in every year to see who wins. And it's because there seems to be a ton of weight put on this race. And I think in trail running, you guys have worlds and stuff, but like this race truly seems like the end all be all. If you win it, you're the best, period. And that's really interesting. Where like track or marathons, you have the 7 world majors, and then track, it's like you have the US championships and then the world championships. It's not these like exhibition races, which is kind of what Western States is. So why do you think this race holds so much weight?
I think it really represents a lot of what the American side of the sport is. So for trail running, the European races are a lot more mountainous, Alps focused, very steep terrain. You're using poles. A lot of the American races are known for being these kind of like faster runnable trails. And so to me, Western States kind of represents the epitome of that, as well as like a variety of challenges. Like you've got altitude, you start off quite high, and like heat is like a major variable as well. So it's kind of this like sampling of conditions, and things that you're competing at that I think make it interesting. I also think they've done a great job in recent years, like with the live stream, which has really catapulted that into like viewership from all over the world, and people that weren't able to take part in this event before are able to like follow along every move, which is pretty exciting for our sport. And that's happening at a lot of trail events now, but I think Western States was among the early pioneers in live streams that made it exciting for people to follow a race that's, many hours long, which is unique.
What was the first moment in your life that you heard Western States, and how did the meaning and definition of it to you, grow over time as you grew into the sport?
I first heard of Western States when I was reading Scott Jurick's book, Eat and Run. For those who maybe aren't familiar with Scott, he's like one of the ultra running OGs. And reading his book was kind of one of the early things that got me into the sport. I mean, I was just so inspired hearing about all of Scott's accomplishments and what they meant to him. And I was at a point in my life where I was really hungry to do big things. I had run most of my life, ran through cross country and track through college, and was like looking for a new adventure. And hearing about Western States, I mean, to me, it represented this whole era of life that I was like looking to pour myself into. I think what's unique about ultras, say even compared to a lot of other races that pros are coming to throw down at, is that like it's a mass participant race. I mean, like we've got people finishing it in, like I think 29 hours is the cutoff, 30 hours. And yeah, that's like makes it really special. Everyone's finishing on a track. And so I remember reading in Scott's book how he, would win the race and then like lay on the infield until the last finishers were coming in. And I think that like really embodies what the sport is all about to me, and was something that drew me into just like the culture of the sport as well.
After you win something like Western States, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point in this conversation, what that meant to you, but also don't want to just make this a conversation about one race, because you're so much more than that. And to that point, like for someone in the sport who's dedicated, who wants to leave a legacy, leave their mark, in your mind, you win Western States, and then you go through the reflective process of like, what's next? What do you feel like is that next thing that you're chasing and pursuing? And does that answer change athlete to athlete, or does it generally look similar of athletes pursuing the same goals in the same races?
Do you mean like what's next for me right now? What's the next thing I'm chasing?
Yeah, goals. Because like a lot of people, you win Western States and you could retire and probably be somewhat content, or at least you'd always have that. But I know that's not how high achievers work. It's generally like, okay, what can I do next? What's the next version of my quote unquote Western States? And so for you, winning such a massive race like that you've trained and believed for, what's the next thing that you're chasing after, pursuing? What's that goal?
It's a great question. I was actually just talking with my sports psychologist about something similar this morning. I think for me, my career in running thus far has been really defined by chasing success, chasing respect, chasing chasing this demonstration of what I always believed I could accomplish. And really, I would say winning Western States was the first time I felt like that gap completely closed, where I like absolutely proved what I believed I was capable of. And so it's like, it's an interesting, like, kind of new chapter for me where I'm kind of removing this, like, maybe underdog mentality that I was always carrying around of like wanting to prove it. Like, you know, like I think so many runners can attest to. It's like that driving force that like when you're doing your workout at night or your, you know, long run in the rain, like you're like those gritty moments, those are like kind of the driving forces of like, this is like where champions are made and this is like how I'm going to make my mark is like by doing what no one's doing. And I feel like closing that gap for me has actually been really freeing. And I feel like I'm putting that weight down of feeling like I need to demonstrate what I'm capable of. And just like now I feel like as I'm thinking about races for the year ahead, I feel like I'm purely selecting like what I'm drawn to and what I love and out of a pure like excitement for these things. And you know, there's always like, it's unique, like pursuing this as my full-time job now. And there's obviously like a career side to things. It's not just like, you know, purely going where the fun is or like, you know, doing, yeah, like what appeals to me every day. There's obviously a job side to it too. But for me, it feels like, yeah, a kind of a new era of being like not having a chip on my shoulder and just, yeah, going like kind of where I feel led.
What's the background in the sport? How did you get introduced to the sport of running, and what's the love journey been like to get to the point? I think I read somewhere that 2016 was your first ultra. I could only pray that my first ultra race 9 years later would be winning Western States. So I'm curious to hear the journey and progression.
Yeah, it's been a long road. I started running when I was in fifth grade. Like started keeping a running log then, and yeah, like really started running like every day then. Like was quickly fell in love with the journey of self progression. Signed up for like a summer race series near me. We were living in Vermont at the time, and yeah, like started running on trails then too, and just have so many great early memories of like being a kid on the cross country team, like going for runs in the woods with my friends after school. And yeah, like through high school, like ran an awesome high school program, Wheatmoreville South in the Chicago area, and had an awesome coach there who really like taught me a lot of values about kind of like the value that really stuck with me is like, it's what we do when no one's watching. I think that's something I've even already referenced in this conversation. And that was something that really stuck with me early on. I was kind of like always in the like back of the top 7, like fringe of, you know, being like on our state team, like always kind of in this like chasing position. And kind of that theme continued for me through college, was like on the edge of being an alternate for nationals and like just being on that cusp enough that I always felt like in this chasing position. And so I think that mindset and that hunger really stuck with me for a long time. Yeah.
Fifth grade, running every single day. I was one of those psychotic kids as well, but I don't know of many others. What do you think was at the core root of you wanting to do that? Because, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but I'm assuming it was not forced, it was not someone massively encouraging you to get out the door. I think there were people in my life that knew I had a gift and a talent for running, but it was really me who kind of took that and, no pun intended, ran with it. And so I'm curious, why do you think you wanted to run every single day at such a young age?
I think early on I was really drawn to like the independence and exploration, like being at like that age where it's like, okay, I'm going to like plan a route and I'm going to go see these things. Like that probably drew me in on the surface, but as far as like wanting to develop skill at it, I think I was really drawn to like trying to be excellent at something. That was something that I think like lured me in and got me hooked early on, was just like, yeah, the opportunity to race and to like actually have like head-to-head competition, especially like coming out of like childhood where you're like, things aren't compared and it's like always relative to yourself. I felt really excited to like go and test myself and like try and be great at something. And I think that was something that, started early on for me. I don't know if it was the same for you.
Yeah, I think it was definitely like how this is an outlet that I can see how far I can go within it, type of
Yeah.
thing. And I think the goals can change over time. Like that's why I think having holistic goals that are process driven and not outcome driven are beautiful, where it's like you can't define excellence per se. And I feel like for me, my running was always at the worst, and I was always at the worst mentally when I had these really concrete outcome goals. It was always at the best when I was like, I just want to see how good I can be in these situations. Or even now, I'm like so washed up. I'm like not running like I used to or as intent, like don't have the energy to run 70-mile weeks. So I would way rather have conversations with people like you. But so now it's like, what can I do given the circumstances? And that to me is excellence. I just think it's a lot more sustainable of an outlook.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I'd agree with that.
Do you think your motive has changed at all? And if so, how, from that fifth grade self with kind of that mindset of pursuing excellence? And if you do find yourself getting into the trap of constantly thinking of outcome goals, how do you rein yourself back in and say, okay, let's ground ourselves?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great, like, that's something that's always top of mind for me. I think that's something that never really goes away, is like that, that instinct to compare and to be drawn to those outcome goals. I think there's two ways I look at it, is like on my like dry race board in the gym right now is like you versus you, and that's always been like a theme that's made racing a lot more fun to me in the last year or two, is viewing it as me versus me. The other like way I've been looking at it lately, which has been kind of interesting to me, is just like finding like fun or almost gamification in those outcome goals. I think it can be tempting to tie the outcome goals to like intrinsic value. And like, I think that's where a lot of the wires get crossed. But I think there's definitely like fun to be had in these like extrinsic outcome goals, but viewing it as more of a game and more of a playful thing, I think has made me feel a little bit more free in the parameters of racing. But as far as like the internal process goes and like the emptying of my own tanks, I see that as me against me. And that's been particularly helpful. Like I thought of it actually a lot at Western States, even when I was like leading the race. I was like, this is still me versus me. Same goes to like whether I'm like, like out there suffering, like not having the race I wanted, it's me versus me. And I think it can like help you, that kind of like language for me helps like meet me wherever I'm at that day. Which I think is important to have like a framework that can adapt to where you're at each day, because it's not always going to be, front running like your favorite race. There's going to be plenty of hard moments in between, and for me that's been like a good guiding way of thinking of it lately.
Do you think that the sport of trail running encourages that way of thinking, you versus you? Because I'm curious just to get your take and perspective on how trail running, when you're running a 100-mile race and you're out on a course for hours upon hours upon hours, you're not going to see as many people. You're going to have more internal dialogue. And I imagine, again, I'm not the one to speak on this, so I'll speak in very vague terms. You correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. You're the pro. But I imagine there's a lot more of a draw and a lean to be like, okay, I have to get through this, or like just like fighting the internal battle with yourself. Whereas I feel like track races, it's almost impossible to make it you versus you, because it's all results driven. It's all top 3 make worlds. It's all, and then the races themselves are so short that it kind of has to be your driving force. I wonder how you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as like on a tactical level, it ends up feeling very you versus you, because like a successful race can be run in so many different ways over that amount of time. Like you might be, I mean, for a race, say as long as like UTMB, you could be, I don't know, you could be an hour or two back at halfway through the race and still be in a position to win it. There's so many the swings, the pendulum swings are so dramatic in a race that long that you really have to be focused on doing it your way, and that can be paced so many different ways or executed so many different ways. I think also like the you versus you aspect to me, like ultras require a ton of patience and like being like drawing from your own well. I mean, like just again thinking of a race, say like UTMB, where there's like an overnight portion, there's a lot of like cheering fans and spectators the first few hours, but then you're settling in for another, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours before you're going to see any people again when you go like through the mountains, and it's like overnight and it's just kind of you looking through the tunnel of your headlamp. So I think it kind of quickly requires you to be pulling from your own internal well of like of energy and motivation and just like enjoyment, like in order to even just get through, like in that case, the first half of the race. So there's a lot of quiet, slow moments in trail and ultra.
Did you have a moment this year during Western States that you like? Take me through some of those low moments, and how do you overcome those moments of defeat or self-doubt or worry?
So like, yeah, I definitely had a few like tactical things not go super well for me during the race. One was I got like this rock in my shoe in the high country that created like this huge blister, probably like it was just like wrapped around my foot, probably like the size of like a, I don't know what increment would I use? Maybe like the size of like a few Swedish fish wrapped around my foot.
Ultra runner talk.
Yeah. And like like had to like stop and kind of mess with it and clean off my sock and all of this, and like really just tried to like, I mean, I think it's just a small minor example that would like be an easy thing to get derailed by in that moment. Just like stopped, tried to do what I could, and then just like sucked it up. That's like something I'd say that didn't go super smoothly, and I probably could have done a better job like preventing. Otherwise, like I think the execution pieces of the race went pretty smoothly. The lows for me were really later on, trying to like hold the gap that I had like built up to second place. And at that point in the race, we get pacers. So my husband was actually with me, pacing me. And I was just like really trying to not fixate on that gap. And I knew that every time I would start asking him like, oh, like how far back do you think she is? Like, do we know when she hit the last aid station? That's like a moment that's taking me out of the present, taking me out of my effort, and again, like taking me out of this you versus you thing that I'm preaching about out of the other side of my mouth. So it's like, again, just this perfect example of like how like even the mindsets that we focus on the most can like so quickly get thrown out the window when we're stressed, when we're like in an intense moment, and those are actually like the moments where we need them most. And so I think that was a big challenge out there for me this year.
What's the craziest food you eat during an ultra normally?
I think probably the crazy thing is that I purely do sports nutrition the whole time. Like I could do gels for like multiple days, and
I don't know if I'm impressed or grossed out.
I think that more, I think it's like, I think probably the more normal thing is like when people are weaving in solid foods, and I'm just like, I just like lock in at my like exact numbers and ratios and have my 2 never second gels an hour and my never second drink mix. And I'm like, just, I can lock in at that for a weirdly long period of time. And no stomach issues or like flavor fatigue or anything, but I think I'm like the odd one out in that way.
What do you feel like was the biggest learning curve when you were starting to get into ultras, whether it was the fueling, the distance, the hydration, something else?
I think for me early on, it's easy to feel like the suffering that you're feeling in an ultra is a unique experience. I think there's a temptation, say for like first 100K or first 100 mile, to like come into an aid station to your crew and to be like, no, what I'm feeling is like, surely everyone can't be feeling this bad. This is really bad. And I'm so out of it. And I'm so this and that, like laundry list of complaints here. But the more I got into the sport, the more I realized like, no, everybody is feeling those things. And that's what we're competing at. We're competing at the ability to manage the heat, to respond well on altitude, to climb well, descend well on rocky terrain, to like keep a steady mind, like to know when to change gears. And that's what the competition is. And I think once I started to view those as not like barriers to successful racing, but seeing those as like the elements I was actually competing at, that's when things started to click for me and also feel more fun.
For those listening out there who are like interested by this whole trail running thing, where would you have them start? Would it be sign up for a race, sign up for a 100-mile race, go to their local park for a 5K? You know, what do you feel like is the power of trail running and what makes it special for you, and why do you think other people should give it a try?
Great question. I would, a few things. I would encourage people, like if you're just like curious to like dip a toe into it, like check out some of the live streams of some of the fun races that are going on. I honestly think it's super exciting, and you know, you've tuned into some of these yourself too. Like, I think once you start watching it, once you start hearing the backstories, there's like this excitement that builds and suddenly you're sucked into like watching this long race. I would say that's like a great like first entry point. But like, I would really encourage people to like, get out there and try like setting some scary goal, whatever that is for you, whether that's like, you know, like getting on the trails at all, or whether that's like you've done some road marathons and you're ultra curious. Like there's a really great community of people that are all setting scary goals. And that's kind of like part of the fun, is that, you know, like you get to share those experiences with others along the way. So I especially think for a lot of the people that I see doing and enjoying road marathons, if you liked that, you'll love ultras. And highly encourage people to try something that feels very daunting and realize that like the process that indoctrinates you into the sport is going through that very difficult and trying and journey to get to those finish lines.
How do you even remotely train for a 100-mile race where you're going for speed?
Yeah, you know, it's definitely high volume. Like for, you know, generally I track my training really through duration rather than miles. And that's something a lot of trail runners do to like really account for the terrain, you know, because like an 8-mile run on flats is not going to be the same as an 8-mile run with 3,000 feet of climbing in it. So our bodies don't know, you know, like miles and whatever, it knows minutes. So that's the way I generally track my training, because it feels like the easiest way to really measure volume. But yeah, like the volume for me going to these 100-mile races is definitely high. And I'm hitting that all through single runs. So not doubling, but doing long runs like often during those times. But right now my training is lower volume and I'm doing a lot of VO2 max work. So there's definitely still like, you're still doing a lot of the same work that you would be like leading up to a marathon or a shorter race. And yeah, like there's definitely like the specificity piece for trails that, varies for everybody. So getting ready for a race in the Alps is super different than, you know, doing a race like Western States. So living here in Flagstaff, we've got like great terrain to prep for Western States. So I was lucky in that the terrain here matches like what I'm going for pretty well.
I feel like all the rage on social media this past year was backyard ultras. I'm curious, is this an offensive question to ask you? One, and two, would you ever consider getting into one?
Um, there's not like a particular one that's luring me in right now, but I know that like that has been like yeah, garnered a lot of attention and popularity in recent years. That being said, like I'm definitely not opposed to that kind of metronome style of running and looping. I think that it's a pretty fun format. Right now I feel like at a stage where I'm just excited to like go where the competition is at. And so, yeah, like if we got like an awesome field to throw down at a backyard, I'd be in. But yeah, right
How
now,
far do
I
you
feel,
think you could go?
gosh, I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah, I feel like it would maybe depend on kind of what the course was like. Yeah, gosh, I don't know, but I'm definitely like lured in by it. Or is it like I feel like I also haven't followed them closely enough to know like
Yeah,
how much
I can give it a
training.
lowdown. It's a 4.2 mile loop every hour on the hour. So it's like if you finish in 45 minutes, you get 15 minutes, and they
Mhm.
go until there's only one person left. And
It's
I
always
got into it.
4.2.
Say that again. Yeah, it's always
It's always
4.2.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. So and it's the same loop. It's like there's no difference. They don't add a new loop. You don't do it backwards. It's like always the same. I got into it because I work a lot with the supplement company BPN, and they
Okay.
launched a backyard ultra at their like BPN ranch called the Go One More Ultra, and they did it in like May in Austin, Texas. So it was like
Hmm.
102 degrees out. So as if like you didn't need more variables, it was like super hot out.
Hmm.
And two guys went 57 loops, which was crazy. So for 57 hours, and then literally like the craziest storm in like recent history happened. So they had to like literally pull the runners off the course. So they tied, which kind of took away from the purpose of like last man standing, but
Yeah.
crazy. And then and they were both 21-year-olds, which was crazy.
Wow.
And then one of them hosted his own um, Go One More, or not Go One More, Last Man Standing, because like he gained popularity through winning that. And I want to say he went on his own like 78 loops before winning. So they get
Wow.
crazy. What's crazy to me is the sleep deprivation. I just can't fathom. They're taking 5-minute naps. It's crazy.
That's yeah, I have dabbled in the sleep deprivation game and that is a hard battle. I very very different style, but like went for the I tried to go for the fastest time on the John Muir Trail, unsupported, and that involved like 4 consecutive overnights, which yeah, like I feel like I joke that like my face changed after that. Like I felt like I looked different. Like I felt like I aged like a ton after just like yeah, sleeping in the dirt for, like sleeping just handfuls of minutes at a time by the end. It was like so gnarly on the body. I feel like very drawn to that again, like on that note of like elements to be competing at. I'm intrigued by sleep being one of them, but I also feel like we only get so many efforts like that in our bodies.
Right, in your lifetime before you
Yeah.
just completely give out. I mean, what I'm
Yeah.
fascinated by the event is like last year you had some marathoners. So there's a guy in Austin, former podcast guest, Mitch Amons. He's run like 2:16, 2:15 in the marathon, and he made it over 100 miles and then he dropped out. And then I think you had some ultra type people. But what I want the event specifically in BPN to do is like to get people like yourselves, because I would just love to see people who have gone the distance, because like marathon conversion to last man standing, there really is none. Like marathon is pure speed when we're talking about ultras, but like you're winning Western States, I feel like you could go pretty darn far because I'm fascinated by the type of dudes who are good at it. Like Kim
Hmm.
Gottwald, he's German, the guy that went 78 laps and 57 laps. He doesn't look like really a traditional sort of run. It's just like it's truly like we're talking about the difference between trail and track. It's like literally a different sport, and it attracts these different types of people. And so I'm fascinated if you put on, the best trail runners, the best XYZ, and all lined them up. I'd be really curious to see how it goes down.
Oh, totally. I mean, I'd like to think I'd be able to hit like a couple hundred miles, but like I don't know. I feel like I don't have much of a frame of reference other than my own, races that I've
What
done.
was your pace per mile for Western States, if you
Gosh,
remember?
I know my gap was like 8:30, I think.
Okay.
I think that would, I'm not sure what that put like the overall pace
You,
at.
what does the gap mean? Sorry,
Oh,
newbie
sorry,
here.
great, sorry. Like grade adjusted pace. So,
Okay.
like factoring in the train, because there's like, is it like 17,000 feet of climbing, I think, in Western states. So that like definitely affects the pace, quite a bit. But, and then gaps, just like a way of kind of like standardizing the pace
Right.
across the climbs and descents. But yeah, no, it's really interesting. I think Big's backyard for a while was like seemed to be the one that was like drawing a lot of people in. But yeah, I feel like my circles have gone quiet on the backyard stuff recently. So it's interesting to hear more about it.
Yeah, I mean, like I think BPN, their social media grew like so much, and then the two athletes, their lives changed overnight,
Yeah.
which was fascinating. The documentary, you'll have to watch the documentary on YouTube because I think that'll
Cool.
give you some more insight. Between runs one day, kick up your legs, get inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just like I think got like literally 500,000 views in like a few days. So there was just so much interest, and I think it's because that's a very digestible format. We need to like gamify running sometimes, and I think my family, who does not follow running at all, was fascinated because it was very easy. It was like it came down to two people, as it normally does. It's like there's two races. It's like everyone else, and then when it goes to two people, and when there's two people, they go at it for a while. And so it was very easy to explain to my family, like two people, 4.2 mile loop every hour on the hour until there's only one left, and it's like, oh, that's fun. Like that sounds
Yeah.
exciting. What I'm
Totally.
fascinated by is like 8:30 for 100 miles. I'd like to think you could kick some ass and go super far. But the tough thing is, I've actually heard this from people. It's like, it's tough that it forces you to hold back. Because Western states, it's like go, go, go. Like maybe there's some like conservativeness in the early stages or specific stages. But to do 4.2 miles and feel totally normal and just know I might be out here for 3 days is like,
Yeah.
it's more mental than it is physical. Like I'm convinced.
100%. Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting too. We've seen this with like road or marathon folks that are like coming to ultras, where like I think it can often be like there's like less efficiency developed at those slower paces, which is like when you were talking about the person you knew who was like a 2:15 marathon or did 100 miles or whatever. Like I would imagine like there's probably less efficiency for that runner developed at whatever it is running, 12-minute pace or whatever or running faster and then using it as aid time. And it's like interesting to see.
I'm curious, how long does it take for you to recover from these feats, whether it's Western States or that other crazy adventure you were taking me through? I'm not sure how
Yeah.
long that race was, but like how long does it take your body to recover?
I would say within a week, I'm back to some like short, easy runs. And then within 2 weeks, I'm back to like normal, easy, if that makes any sense. Like, maybe working my way back up to like an hour run over a couple weeks. It's really different for everybody though. I know some people who don't run a step for 2 to 4 weeks after something like that. I personally kind of enjoy the short runs as a way to like work through some of the kinks and like get the legs feeling like back to human again. I think the biggest aspect by far is the mental recovery. I have pretty much taken this fall like mostly off, just to give myself time to be unstructured, focus on other things. And yeah, like I also started my season really early this year, and I think that there's only so many months of the calendar year that you can be like, chasing a goal. So yeah, I think that it definitely varies for everybody, but I'd say about a week or two, and I'm like kind of like starting to feel more like myself.
What's the nutrition game look like coming back from only having gels to then introducing new food? Has that ever been a struggle or pretty easy?
I feel like I can usually like, get and keep food down pretty well. I think like after Western states this year, like you kind of find like what sounds good and then like eat a lot of that. Like I think after Western states this year, I had like a couple of veggie burgers and like I think I had a pint of ice cream. Like that kind of stuff usually sounds good, like salty, fatty, like and yeah, or like I don't know, especially coming off of the heat. Like a lot of beverages just sound good. So I went to like a juice bar the next day and just like cleaned them out. So that kind of genre.
I love it.
Yeah.
What advice would you have from your story for those listening, people who want to do big things in the sport, whether it's trail, middle school, cross country, people just looking to run their first marathon who have a corporate job? What advice would you give to them?
I think good things take time. I've been doing this sport. This year will be my 10th year doing ultras. And yeah, like it took me pretty much that whole time until this year to like figure out a 100-mile race and execute it well. I think there are plenty of junctions along the way where I could have thrown in the towel or lowered my sights, and I'm really glad I didn't. I really kind of feel like I've just kind of kept going the longest and like stuck with it and been patient enough to like see out success. And so I think I'd really encourage that in others, like set the big scary goal and be really patient with it and fight for it all the time. Like those are the goals that are the most meaningful, where you see the fulfillment and the self-growth coming from those types of achievements. But like the real growth happens along the way, and like who you become in the process. I think early on, one of the things that helped me out was I felt like I had a clear idea of who I wanted to become doing all of this. Like I talk about like reading those books early on and like, setting big goals. I wanted to be like the kind of person that ran ultras and that like did big things. And I think that in the process of trying to find some success along the way at it, I'm like really happy at how the sport has shaped me into a person and allowed me to be more resilient, more adaptable, more growth minded, and more patient. I mean, I could go on forever, all the things it's taught me. And I'm just like, happy that I've gone on this journey. Like, even if it all stopped today, I'm really like happy with what I've accomplished and what I've learned from it. And I'm really happy like seeing, I think, how running is growing more than ever still and finding its legs in so many different kinds of communities and events. And I'm just like, I'm so genuinely excited about the sport right now and how it's growing and how it's continuing to like teach people how to find the best versions of themselves, because I think that's what the sport does best.
Can't lose when you have that perspective. I love it. It's not about the running itself, it's about the person it turns you into. And I think if you have that mindset, it's hard to lose. And if you win a Western States title in the process, it's just bonus,
Totally.
Just bonus. Abby, really appreciate the conversation today. Only final question for you, the question I ask every guest on every single podcast. If you had Gordon Ramsay coming over to your house for dinner, what would you choose to make for him?
What would I choose to make for him?
Yes, you're cooking for Gordon.
Oh, okay. I would probably do a homemade pasta. I really like some Italian food. I volunteered at a vineyard after college and learned a lot about like great Tuscan food. So I'd maybe like try and impress him with something like that. And then like, I think where I would shine would probably be in like the dessert category. So probably try and like bake a good cake.
Ooh, cake. Okay. Now we're talking. Now we're talking. Abby, thank you so much for the conversation. I feel like I learned some new things about trail running, and it was amazing to hear your inspiring story of how you got into it and the success you've had thus far. So excited to have you back on in the future. I know you'll continue to do great things, and you've got a new fan wanting me today, and keep up all the great work. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Dominic. Appreciate it.